Thieves, rapists, murderers need to be proud or get a term. This is the opinion of Yevgeny Prigozhyn, the financier of the Wagner Private Military Company, who asked the chairman of the State Duma to ban public criticism of mercenaries of his private army, including former convicts. Prigozhyn is worried that the Wagner members are considered second-class people, but they should be proud of them.
In this regard, I ask you to urgently work out the introduction of Article 280.5 on discrediting participants in hostilities, including former convicts, into the Criminal Code of the Russian Federation, within the framework of which to prohibit public actions aimed at discrediting volunteers, including former prisoners, when using them to protect the interests of the Russian Federation and its citizens, including prohibiting publications of a negative nature and any criticism of the participants of the special military operation, as well as information about their past offenses with a penalty of imprisonment for up to 5 years. Yevgeny Prigozhyn, financier of the Wagner PMC, from an appeal to the chairman of the State Duma of the Russian Federation.
The State Duma has already responded to Prigozhyn's request. They said that they would urgently study the possibility of making such an amendment to the Criminal Code.
You may have heard the Wagner PMC called.
The first reports of the recruitment of Russian prisoners in the Wagner PMC began to appear last summer. In the video, Prigozhyn speaks in the colony and promises bright prospects for future mercenaries.
Далее, через полгода.
Then, after 6 months, you go home having received a pardon. The one who wants to stay with us stays with us.
Те, кто хочет остаться с нами, остается с нами.
According to estimates of the US National Security Council, now the Wagner PMC forces in Ukraine have at least 50,000 mercenaries, of which 10,000 are contract soldiers, and the remaining 40,000 are convicted. Some of them managed to survive half a year of service, and now they are starting to return to Russia, and not to the colony.
Кто захочет пойти?
Who wants to marry, be baptized or study, go ahead with the blessing, as it is said.
Благословление.
Russian journalists identified among the prisoners who fought in Ukraine as part of the Wagner PMC, now pardoned, recidivist thieves, drug dealers and murderers. Here, for example, Anton Ionov, who tortured his victims with boiling water. In 2018, he was sentenced to 11 years in a strict regime colony. In 2022, he joined Prigozhin's mercenaries, now at large and on the chest a medal. It also became known about the St. Petersburg businessman Alexander Tunin. He was sentenced to 23 years for the contract killing of a family of 4, including 2 children. He returned from the war alive and well and immediately flew to Turkey. And this is Kirill Neglin, who beats his wife, threatened to kill her, and in court argued that she will not live in long. How long the court will measure his time? She has so much left to live. Now he is free. Human rights activists are sure that the return to freedom of prisoners who persecuted, intimidated and beaten loved ones is a big risk.
Aggressors are often prone to harassment and revenge. This is a typical pattern of behavior. Naturally, they can persecute the victims even after their release from places of deprivation of liberty. Marie Davtyan, head of the Center for the Protection of Victims of Domestic Violence, in a comment for the publication Verstka.
While in Russia they are trying to legalize the Wagner members and give them indulgence for crimes, in the civilized world Prigozhin's private army is condemned. For example, the United States has recognized the Wagner Company as a transnational criminal organization and will impose additional sanctions against it. Reported by Roman Smoler, Angelika Brushnevska, UATV News.